The Rolex was on the table between the flower centerpiece and my mother's good china when my father made the accusation. He said it 3 times before I understood he meant Isaiah. He said, "The boy took it. The boy took it. The boy took it." He was pointing at my son. Isaiah was 14 years old, 5'11", sitting to my left with his hands under the table on his knees. He had been reading his book on the drive over from Decatur. He had not spoken once at dinner. He had eaten 3 bites of his mother's jollof and then set his fork down because my father had said something about his hair when he sat down, and Isaiah had a way of quietly finishing being present in a room when someone said something to him. My mother said, "Renata, your son had it in his jacket." Vance saw it fall out when he hung it up. My sister's husband Vance was at the other end of the table with his hand around a glass. He nodded at my mother. He did not look at me. He did not look at Isaiah. He looked at the tablecloth. Isaiah's hands started shaking. He was trying to hide them under the table. He was 14 years old, and he had learned to hide his hands in this family before he had learned to tie his shoes. His shoulders were straight. His chin was level. His face was very still. Only his hands were moving, and only because he could not stop them. My father said, "Renata, your son either confesses right now, at this table, in front of every person sitting here, or he is dead to this family. Do you understand what I am saying to you? He is dead to me. He is dead to his grandmother. He is dead to his aunt. He is dead to every person in this room." That is what happens when a boy steals from family. The dining room had 8 people in it that night. My father, Gerald Okafor Sr., at the head of the table. My mother, Adeze, to his right. My sister, Claudine, across from me. Claudine's husband, Vance, at the other end. My aunt Femi to my mother's right. 2 family friends named Precious and Roland, who had been my parents' neighbors for 20 years, on the other side. Dion, my sister's 16-year-old son, next to his mother. Isaiah next to me. My father had chosen his audience. He had chosen the size of the room. He had chosen the moment in the evening, right after the toast, right before dessert, when the wine had softened everyone into a state of listening instead of arguing. He had timed it. I looked at my sister Claudine, who was sitting across from me next to her son Dion. Dion was 16, 5'8", and he was wearing my son's jacket. It was Isaiah's black North Face with the small tear on the left cuff from a fence in September. The boys had done this 3 or 4 times before at family events, mixed up their jackets at the door, because they had been the exact same height for the last 2 years, and it was a running joke in the family that my father made when he wanted to seem warm. He would say, "Which one is which? Come here so I can look at you." He had said it tonight when they walked in. My phone was in my hand. I placed it face up on the table next to my plate. I did not turn it on. I did not open anything. I placed it there where everyone could see it, screen dark, and I looked at my sister Claudine. "Dion, stand up for a second, sweetheart." Dion looked at his mother. Claudine's face did not change. Her voice was quiet. "Careful, Renata. This is not the time to make this about it right now. Dion, please stand up." Dion stood up. His hands went to the pockets of the jacket he was wearing. It was Isaiah's jacket. He knew it was Isaiah's jacket. He had swapped at the door. My father had made the running joke about it 40 minutes earlier. I stood up, and I walked over to the coat rack in the hallway, and I picked up the other jacket, the one Dion had worn to the dinner, the gray puffer with the loose zipper. I brought it back to the dining room. I held both jackets up, one in each hand, in front of my father, and in front of my mother, and in front of every person at the table. "Which one of these is Isaiah's?" My father did not answer. Dion looked at his hands. My Aunt Femi, who had been quiet all evening, put down her fork. "Dion, which one were you wearing when you sat down?" Dion looked at his mother again. His mother looked at Vance. Vance did not look up from the tablecloth. Dion opened his mouth and closed it and opened it again, and finally, in a voice that was not the voice of a 16-year-old, I was wearing the black one. The black one is Isaiah's. Dion's head dropped. Yes, so if a watch fell out of a jacket tonight, and a jacket was found with a watch in it, it was the jacket you were wearing. Silence from Dion. Okay, I put both jackets on the back of my chair. I picked up my phone from the table. I looked at Vance. Vance was still looking at the tablecloth. I picked up my bag. I said Isaiah's name once, gently, and Isaiah stood up. I said thank you to my mother for dinner. I did not look at my father. We walked out of the dining room, through the front hall, past the framed photograph of my parents at their wedding in 1984, and out to my car. Family secret tales is where the ones who watch a room learn how to read one. We did not talk in the car for the first 12 minutes. Isaiah was in the passenger seat with his hands folded in his lap. They were not shaking anymore. They were very still. I had learned, over 14 years of raising him, that Isaiah's stillness was where his feelings went when there was nowhere else to put them. He was not calm. He was managing. The drive from my parents' house in Buckhead back to Decatur is 34 minutes if the traffic on Ponce is moving. That night the traffic on Ponce was moving. I took the long way anyway. I went down North Highland, past the coffee shop we used to walk to when Isaiah was 7, past the bookstore where he had picked out his first fantasy novel in 4th grade, past the corner where I had taught him to ride a bike when he was 8, and had held the back of his seat for 4 straight afternoons in July before I let go. I did not take that route on purpose. I took it because my hands turned the wheel that way without asking me. Isaiah, I want to tell you something. Okay, you did not do anything wrong tonight. His voice was very small in the quiet of the car. I know. You do not have to say anything about tonight if you don't want to. Not to me, not to anyone. You can just be quiet as long as you need to be quiet. He nodded once at the window. He was quiet for another 2 minutes. His hands were still folded in his lap. He was watching the streetlights come on. Then, without turning his head, Mom, why did Grandpa say it 3 times? Say what 3 times? The boy took it. He said it 3 times. I did not have a good answer for him. What I knew, sitting in the car on the drive back to Decatur, was that my father had said it 3 times, because he had needed to convince himself of what he was saying before the rest of the room needed to be convinced. He had not been announcing a fact. He had been performing an act of belief. He had chosen to believe it because believing it was easier than the alternative, and the alternative was that his son-in-law had planted a watch in a 14-year-old boy's jacket and let him take the fall in his own dining room during his own 40th anniversary dinner. That alternative meant reconsidering 40 years of what my father had believed about Vance, about Claudine, about the marriages his daughters had made, and about the family he had spent his whole adult life presenting to the world as a success. It was easier to believe that Isaiah had stolen the watch than to reconsider any of that. I did not say that to Isaiah. I said, I don't know, buddy, but I am going to find out what happened tonight, and I am going to be very sure about it before I say anything more to you about it. Can you give me a couple of days? Yes, he was quiet the rest of the drive. When we got home, he went to his room and closed the door softly, the way he closes doors, when he is trying not to make his emotions anyone else's problem. I heard him take off his shoes. I heard him set his book on his nightstand. I heard the light click off 10 minutes later. He had not eaten dinner. He had left 3 bites of jollof on his plate at my parents' house. He would tell me the next morning he had not been hungry. That was not true. He had not eaten because eating in that room, after what my father had said, would have been the same thing as agreeing with it. My 14-year-old son had figured that out in real time and had chosen not to eat rather than take a single bite while his grandfather called him a thief. He was quiet the rest of the drive. When we got home, he went to his room and closed the door softly, the way he closes doors when he is trying not to make his emotions anyone else's problem. I heard him take off his shoes. I heard him set his book on his nightstand. I heard the light click off 10 minutes later. He had not eaten dinner. He had left 3 bites of jollof on his plate at my parents' house. He would tell me the next morning he had not been hungry. That was not true. He had not eaten, because eating in that room, after what my father had said, would have been the same thing as agreeing with it. My 14-year-old son had figured that out in real time, and had chosen not to eat rather than take a single bite while his grandfather called him a thief. I went to my kitchen table and I called Detective Yolanda Collier at 9:42 on a Sunday night, and I asked her one question. Detective Collier is Atlanta PD, Fraud Unit, and she has been my contact for 3 years. I have brought her 4 cases at Alcott Investigations, and she has closed 3 of them. She answered the phone even though she was off duty, because I do not call her at 9:42 on a Sunday night unless it matters. Yolanda, I need you to check something Monday morning. Vance Harmon, my sister's husband. I want to know if there is an active insurance claim in his name for a stolen Rolex. There was a pause on her end. Renata, what happened? I will explain Monday. Can you check? I can check. Sit tight. Thank you. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time after we hung up. I opened my wallet to put my card away. Isaiah's school ID fell out. Not the current one. The misspelled one they had printed at the start of 9th grade before they corrected it. Isaiah Okafor in laminated blue letters, photo slightly crooked. The S doubled where it should not have been. They had reprinted it 3 days later with the correct spelling, and Isaiah had asked to keep the wrong one because he liked how it looked. I had put it in my wallet in September, and I had forgotten it was there. I looked at his face on the card for a while. 9 years old on the outside, 14 on the inside. 9th grade. The name spelled wrong and then spelled right. 2 IDs in one wallet, and me carrying both of them for reasons I had not been ready to name yet. I put the ID on the kitchen table next to my phone. I did not put it back in my wallet. Simone Caruthers called at 7 the next morning. Simone is my colleague at Alcott. I had texted her at 11 the night before with the summary. She had not asked questions. She had asked what time she should get to the office. I had said 7. She was at the office at 6:45. She had already pulled the request forms for the Georgia Pawnbroker Records access. Under Georgia Code, a licensed private investigator can request pawn transaction records from any registered pawnbroker in the state within 24 hours for the purpose of a documented fraud investigation. Simone had the paperwork ready. What are we looking for? A Rolex. Submariner, Vance Harmon, address in Buckhead. Which pawn shop? I don't know yet. Send it to every registered pawnbroker in Fulton and DeKalb counties. If he pawned it, it will be in one of them. Simone nodded. Okay, she sent the request at 7:12. By 10:45, we had a hit. DeKalb County. A pawn shop called Peachtree Silver and Gold on Memorial Drive. Vance Harmon, transaction dated March 9th. 1 Rolex Submariner. Serial number matching the manufacturer's registration under his name from the original purchase in 2019. Pawned for $4,200. Never redeemed. Sold to a collector in June. March 9th. Detective Collier called at 11:15 with the other half of it. There was an active insurance claim in Vance's name filed March 9th of this year. Stolen Rolex Submariner from his vehicle in Buckhead. Claim value $8,000. Claim number and file location on record. March 9th, I said. March 9th, Collier confirmed. He pawned the watch the same day he filed the claim that it was stolen. Yes, I have a photograph of the watch he had in his drawer last night, sitting on his bureau, presented as recovered. Send it to me. I sent it. Collier sent it to a certified watch authenticator at the ATF office. The response came back at 2 in the afternoon. Serial number on the case back was a known reference from a replica manufacturer in Shenzhen. Retail value, $340. Not a Rolex. My sister's husband had pawned his real Rolex in March, filed a fraud claim for $8,000 the same day, replaced it with a Chinese replica, and let a 14-year-old take the fall at a family dinner 6 months later so that his cover story would have a name in it before the insurance company assigned an investigator. I sat with that for a while at my desk. Simone was in her office with the door open. She could see me. She did not come in. At 3:15, I opened my phone and I texted Isaiah. He was in App English 5th period. I sent one line, "You are the best thing I have ever done." He wrote back at 3:22, "I know, Mom. It is okay. If this is finding you and you are still here, welcome to Family Secret Tales. This story is one of the ones we tell because someone has to." Detective Collier filed the formal fraud referral Monday afternoon. Vance's insurance company received it Tuesday morning. Wednesday morning, the insurer's fraud unit opened an internal investigation and put the claim on hold. Vance received a certified letter Wednesday afternoon requiring him to appear for a recorded statement within 7 business days. His attorney, a man named Bradford Kessler, called Alcott's main line at 4:15 Wednesday afternoon. Simone put him through to my office. "Miss Okafor, my client believes there has been a serious misunderstanding regarding a family matter and would like to resolve it without further involvement of law enforcement. Your client filed a fraudulent insurance claim in March. It has nothing to do with a family matter." "Miss Okafor, I am not in a position to comment on the specifics of an active claim. What I am authorized to say is that my client is prepared to withdraw the claim in exchange for you withdrawing the referral to Atlanta PD. That is not how referrals work. Once Detective Collier has it, it is her file, not mine." A pause on his end. "I see. Also, Mr. Kessler, the referral is already filed. My withdrawing anything would not unfile it. What you are asking for is not procedurally possible." "I see. Was there anything else?" "There was not." He hung up. I called Simone into my office. I told her the conversation. She wrote it up as an addendum to the case file, with the date, time, participants, and content, because that is what a licensed PI does when opposing counsel makes an unsolicited call about an active investigation. She sent the addendum to Detective Collier at 4:32. At 5 p.m. Wednesday, I called Vance directly. I did not have to look up the number. I had it from 6 years of family holidays, Christmas cards signed with all 4 of their names, 4th of July barbecues, where he had stood at the grill with a beer in his hand and told me his opinions about my job. I had his number saved as Vance Harmon in my contacts. I looked at his name on the screen for a moment before I pressed call. I thought about the last conversation we had had before the dinner. It had been at Trey's 40th birthday in July. He had asked me what a private investigator actually did all day. I had told him. He had made a face and said something about it sounding like a lot of paperwork for not a lot of money, with a smile that had made me smile back at the time. He had known, in July, that he had already pawned the watch and filed the claim 4 months earlier. He had known it every time he had made a joke about my work in the years since he had married my sister. I pressed call. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Renata, thank God. Listen, this thing has spun out of control. I want to talk to you about this without lawyers on the phone." "Vance, yes." He said, "Yes. I am going to read you 3 things. I do not need you to respond. I am going to read them and then I am going to hang up. Renata, please, this is not what it looks like. First, the pawn shop receipt from Peachtree Silver and Gold on Memorial Drive. Rolex Submariner. Your name. Your address in Buckhead. $4,200, dated March 9th of this year. Silence on his end. Second, the insurance claim you filed for a stolen Rolex Submariner, value $8,000, from your vehicle in Buckhead, also dated March 9th of this year. The same day, his voice cracked. That is, those dates are not, there is context to that situation that you are not seeing. Third, Isaiah's school attendance record from March 9th. He was in App English at 9 a.m. in Decatur. He was in geometry at 10. He was in chemistry at 11. He was in the school library at lunch. His mother, who is me, picked him up from the front entrance at 2:45. He was never in Buckhead. He was never in your vehicle. He never touched your watch. 6 seconds of silence. I counted them because I wanted him to feel the length of them. I could hear his breathing on the other end of the line. It was shorter and higher than it had been when he answered. He had been sitting somewhere. I did not know where he was sitting. I could hear a television in the background. I could hear him swallow. Then, softly, I need to call my attorney. Vance filed the claim on March 9th. The watch was already gone. Isaiah never touched it. I hung up. I sat at my desk. Simone came in without knocking. She looked at me for a moment. You okay? Yeah, that was clean. Thank you. The ethics complaint to his firm went in at 3. They emailed a receipt. Good. The ethics complaint had gone to the compliance office of Prescott Watson Realty, Vance's firm in Buckhead, at 3 that afternoon. It was a factual summary of the active fraud investigation involving one of their licensed agents. It included the case number from Atlanta PD and a note that the situation was ongoing. Firms of that size are required by state real estate commission rules to review any credible report of a licensed agent under active law enforcement investigation for financial fraud. Prescott Watson received it and had it in their compliance queue by end of day Wednesday. Friday morning at 8:45, Vance's managing broker, a man named Trevor Alderman, called Vance into a conference room with 2 other senior agents present. Trevor is required to conduct license hold conversations with at least 2 other licensed agents in the room. It is standard. One of the 2 other agents that Friday morning was a woman named Adrienne Sue, who had been competing with Vance for the same client, a developer named Malcolm Reeve, for 4 months. The client had been leaning toward Vance for signing. The conversation lasted 40 minutes. When Vance walked out of that conference room, he was on administrative leave pending the outcome of the fraud investigation. His 3 active listings were reassigned effective that afternoon. Adrienne Sue took the Malcolm Reeve listing. By Friday evening, my sister's husband was not going to real estate meetings. He was going to his attorney's office. He was sitting in his kitchen with the certified letters from the insurance company on the counter, next to the certified letter from Prescott Watson's compliance office, next to the notification from Atlanta PD that a recorded interview had been scheduled for the following Wednesday at 10 a.m. Claudine called me Saturday morning. Renata, please, we need to talk in person. About what? About all of this. About Dion. About Isaiah. About our family. You are welcome to come to my office Monday. Dion is welcome to come with you if he wants to. Vance is not welcome to come. Dion does not need to be there. This is between adults. Dion is welcome if he wants to come. 10 a.m. Monday. Renata, please. 10 a.m. Monday. I hung up. Claudine arrived at my office at 9:53 Monday morning. Dion was with her. She had tried to leave him in the reception area, but he had followed her to my door. Simone was at the front desk. She let them both back. They sat down across from me. Claudine started to speak. Dion spoke first. I saw him do it. Claudine's head snapped toward him. Dion, Aunt Renata. I saw Vance put the watch in the jacket pocket before dinner. He was in the front hall. He thought nobody was in the room. I was on the stairs. I had come down to get my phone charger out of my backpack. I did not see him at first because he was behind the coat rack. When I came around the corner, he was standing at the jacket. He did not see me because I was behind him. He took the watch out of his own pocket. He held it in his hand for a second. Then he put it in the jacket pocket. He looked at it once more, and then he closed the pocket. He walked back into the dining room. I stood on the stairs for I do not know how long. I thought it was my jacket. I did not know. I did not know until we were sitting down, and Grandpa made the joke about which one of us was which. And I looked down, and the sleeve was Isaiah's. The tear on the cuff. I knew it was Isaiah's jacket then. I told Mom at the table. I told her right before you did the thing with the two jackets. Mom told me to be quiet. Claudine reached for his arm. Dion, honey, we agreed not to do this here. Mom, no, he was 16. His voice broke on the no. Aunt Renata. I am really sorry. I should have said it at the table. Grandpa was so loud. I did not know what to do. I looked at Dion. I did not look at Claudine. Dion, thank you for saying it. You are the person who did the right thing today. I want you to know that. Dion nodded. He put his hand over his eyes. Claudine's voice went thin. Renata, please, please, I have children. I have a mortgage. Vance is going to lose his job. Please, he was in trouble. He made bad decisions. He is going to make it right. Please. I opened the top drawer of my desk. I took out a single sheet of paper. It was the printed summary Simone had prepared for the case file. The claim date, the pawn receipt date, the school attendance record, the replica authentication result. 4 lines. I placed it on the desk, facing Claudine. Claudine, read this. She looked at it. She did not touch it. Her eyes went down the page. She did not read it out loud. When she got to the last line, she closed her eyes. Dion. Come here for a second, sweetheart. Dion stood up. He walked around to my side of the desk. I put my hand on his shoulder. He was almost as tall as me. Dion, you did the right thing this morning. Not everyone in your family did. That does not mean you did anything wrong. It means you are the person in this family that I am going to be proud of for a long time. Do you hear me? Dion nodded. He was crying. Claudine, you can leave now. Renata, wait, you can leave now. She stood up. She looked at Dion. Her voice was flat. Dion, come on. Dion looked at me. I nodded. He walked around the desk and followed his mother out of my office. Simone closed the door behind them. The fallout, which is what people call the part after the story is over, but before anyone can pretend it was, ran for 3 weeks. The financial layer moved on paper. The insurance company denied Vance's claim in writing on the second Wednesday and referred the case to their special investigations unit. Their file went from a civil dispute to a possible criminal fraud referral. Detective Collier, working the parallel Atlanta PD investigation, pulled a second file from 3 years ago. Vance had filed a claim for a stolen laptop in 2022, same insurer. Paid out $4,200. Claudine had signed as a witness on the original claim. Collier's file now had 2 claims, both suspicious, both with the same signatory pattern. It was no longer one bad decision under pressure. It was a documented history. The professional layer moved through Prescott Watson. Vance's administrative leave became suspension pending outcome of the criminal case. The Georgia Real Estate Commission opened a parallel license review. Vance's ability to sell real estate in the state of Georgia was functionally over. His attorney continued to argue for a plea arrangement. The prosecutor's office had not yet responded. The social layer moved through my Aunt Femi. She had been at the dinner. She had watched my father say what he said, and she had watched Isaiah sit there with his hands under the table, and she had made a decision about what she was going to do with what she had seen. She called my father's brother Emeka on the Tuesday after the dinner. Emeka has been in our family for 61 years, and he has never once let my father off the hook for the kind of thing my father did that night. Femi told Emeka what she had witnessed at the table. She told him about the 2 jackets. She told him what my father had said to me and to Isaiah in front of the whole room. Emeka listened without interrupting. When Femi was finished, he thanked her and hung up. Emeka did not call my father. He did something worse. He simply stopped answering my father's calls. Not with an explanation, not with an announcement. He just stopped. My father, who had spoken to his brother every Sunday morning for 40 years, called Emeka the following Sunday and got voicemail. He called again the Sunday after that. Voicemail. He called on a Wednesday. Voicemail. By the end of the 3rd week, my father had left 11 voicemails for his brother and had received none in return. Femi also called my mother's closest friend from church, a woman named Sister Dorothea, who has known me since I was 7 years old. Femi told Sister Dorothea what she had witnessed. Sister Dorothea, who runs the Women's Ministry Planning Committee, quietly removed my mother from the roster for the next event without a formal vote. My mother found out on a Sunday when she arrived at the church hall in her good blue suit and was not on the list at the door. None of this required documents. None of it required Simone to share anything. It required one person, my Aunt Femi, telling the truth about what she had seen with her own eyes at a dinner table, to two people who trusted her. My father called me on the Thursday of the first week. I did not answer. He left a voicemail. It was 2 minutes and 14 seconds long. He told me I had embarrassed the family. He told me I had turned a private matter into a public one. He told me my career had made me cold. He told me Isaiah would grow up to resent me. He told me I owed him and his wife an apology. He told me none of this would have happened if I had raised my son properly. I listened to the voicemail once. I sent it to Simone. Simone added it to the case file with a note that the recording demonstrated Gerald Okafor Sr. had escalated the accusation to a public setting at the dinner of 8 witnesses, which became relevant 2 weeks later when Vance's attorney tried to argue that Renata had a personal vendetta motivating the fraud referral. Detective Collier used the voicemail to demonstrate that the escalation had come from Gerald, not from me. I did not respond to the voicemail. I did not call my father. I did not send him a text. I let the voicemail sit. Isaiah asked me one question the following Wednesday morning at the kitchen table. He had a bowl of cereal in front of him. His book was next to the bowl. He had not opened it yet. "Mom, yeah, did Grandpa know it wasn't me?" I looked at him for a moment. Yes, he knew. Isaiah nodded. He did not say anything for a while. Then he picked up his book. He opened it to the page where he had left off. He started reading. He did not ask another question. He did not ask about Christmas. He did not ask whether Grandpa would apologize. He just picked up his book. I sat across from him and I watched him read for a few minutes. I put the misspelled school ID on the table between us where he could see it. He looked at it. He looked at me. He did not ask why it was on the table. I remember when they gave me that one. Miss Halverson said they would fix it, but I told her I liked it. I remember. Why do you keep it? Because I love your name. It is spelled wrong. It is spelled how I first saw it. He nodded. He kept reading. I picked up the ID, and I did not put it back in my wallet. I took it with me to work, and I propped it against my monitor, and I left it there. Vance drove to Alcott 2 Wednesdays after that. Simone saw the car in the parking lot from the reception window at 11:40. She watched it for 22 minutes. He never got out. He sat in the driver's seat with his hands between his knees, looking at the front door of the building. At 12:02, he backed out of the parking space and drove away. He did not park correctly on the way out and clipped the concrete curb dividing the lot. I heard the sound from my office. I did not go to the window. Simone came into my office. That was him. I know. You saw him. I heard him hit the curb. You want me to tell reception if he comes back. He is not coming back. He did not come back. I almost called my father the week the insurance company formally denied Vance's claim. His voicemail had sat on my phone for 11 days. I had not deleted it. I had his number on the screen, and I thought about what I would say to him if I called. I thought about telling him that Isaiah had asked me one question and that Isaiah had not asked another one after I answered it. I thought about telling him that the way his voice had sounded at the dinner table saying the boy took it 3 times was the sound I would remember for the rest of my life, and that he had chosen to make it that sound. I put the phone down. He was not going to hear any of what I had to say. He had already decided what version of me existed in his head, and he had been paying for the maintenance of that version for so long that the truth was not going to reach him now. I almost replied to my mother when she texted me on a Thursday 2 weeks in. Her text said, "Please, Renata, he is your father. Whatever happened, this is not who we are." I typed a response. It was 3 sentences. It said that this was exactly who we were. It said that this had always been exactly who we were, and that the only new thing was that I had stopped agreeing to pretend otherwise. It said that when she was ready to sit at a table where my son was not going to be called a thief before he was called anything else, she could call me. I read the response twice. I deleted it. I did not send anything. I almost called my sister Claudine when I heard from Dion that she had left Vance's house and was staying with a friend in Sandy Springs. Dion had texted me on a Saturday night. He had asked if I was okay. He had told me his mother was staying with a friend and that she was thinking about a lot of things. He had signed it Dion, and then he had written, "I am sorry again." I typed a response to Claudine. It was one line. It said, "I hope you make the choices you need to make for Dion." I did not send it. I sent Dion a message instead. I told him I was proud of him. I told him he could call me anytime. I told him his cousin loved him. I did not say anything about his mother. That is where the story sits now. Detective Collier's fraud case is with the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. Vance is out on his own recognizance pending arraignment. Prescott Watson has formally terminated him. The Georgia Real Estate Commission has issued a preliminary suspension of his license. His attorney continues to argue for a misdemeanor plea. The insurance company has denied the claim and is pursuing recovery of the 2022 laptop payout as well. Claudine has not returned to Vance's house. She is still in Sandy Springs. Dion is with her. My mother has not called since the second text. My father has not left another voicemail after the first one. My Aunt Femi comes over on Sunday afternoons now and brings food. Isaiah sits at the kitchen table with her while she cooks. She does not ask him about the dinner. She asks him about his book. On a Tuesday afternoon in late October, I was at my desk at Alcott. The fraud case file was open on my laptop. The pawn receipt was on top of the paper file, printed on cheap thermal paper that had already started to yellow at the edges. Isaiah's misspelled school ID was propped against my monitor where I could see him while I worked. His face at 14. Ninth grade. The name spelled Isaiah in laminated blue letters. The doubled S that Ms. Halverson had told him she would fix and that he had asked her to keep. He had asked her to keep it because he had liked how it looked. He had liked how it looked because it was his, and nobody had corrected it yet. My phone rang. It was Detective Collier with an update on the Fulton County filing. 20 miles away, in the house I had grown up in. My parents' anniversary centerpiece was still on the dining room table, 2 weeks and 1 day after the dinner. The petals had dried and fallen onto the tablecloth. My mother had not cleared them. My father was in the kitchen. His phone was in his hand, unlocked, and my name was on the screen. He had opened the contact card. He had not pressed call. He had been looking at the screen for a while, longer than he had looked at anything in his kitchen in a long time, and he had not pressed call. He put the phone face down on the counter. He did not press call. He looked at the phone for another minute face down on the counter without touching it. Then he walked out of the kitchen and left the phone where it was and did not come back to it that evening. Family Secret Tales is where a 14-year-old shaking hands finally stops shaking and stays stopped. If this one reached you, subscribe. There is another one coming Sunday, and it is waiting for you. Stay with us. The receipts are coming.